Abroad Pod.
Hello, listener, and thank you so much for joining us on this 37th edition of the Teaching Abroad Pod, coming at you on Wednesday, October 5th. I'm your host, Rowan Lomas, back after quite a long sabbatical while I was getting set up for my working vacation in Costa Rica. And with me this week to talk about it is my colleague Lucas from the Oxford Seminars Job Placement Service. How are things going with you, Luke?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I guess with James no longer with us, I'm not going to have anyone to talk footy with, am I?
My knowledge of the game is sadly lacking, but if you ever want to talk about karate or kung fu, I'm your guy.
Well, it's not really my area of expertise nor experience, but I did hear you had an upcoming blog talking about your experiences with doing sports abroad, didn't you? Have you learned anything, or do you have anything to share about some of the sports people like to join while teaching overseas?
Yes, indeed. Just in my first little bit of research, I've discovered so many interesting sports from around the world, and I'm going to try and cover top 10 if I can squeeze that many in. There's a lot of martial arts because I am a little bit biased that way, but trying to get a good mix, a little sampling from all the different countries that we are able to place people in.
Awesome. I really look forward to reading that. Thanks so much for sharing. And I guess the real focus of this episode is to hear about my experiences so far in Costa Rica. But first, a word from our sponsor.
With Oxford Seminars, starting your new career teaching ESL couldn't be easier. Oxford Seminars has trained more than 70,000 teachers over the past 30 years, and you could be next. Our comprehensive 120-hour program starts with live instruction from an experienced ESL teacher, followed by convenient online modules. If your goal is to relocate overseas or even teach from the comfort of your own home, Oxford Seminars' renowned lifetime job placement service will get you where you want to be. Right now, you can get $50 off your Oxford Seminars TESL, TESL, TEFL course price when paying in full by calling 1-888-225-2480 and giving the code TEACHINGABROADPOD. Visit oxfordseminars.com today to find out more.
Welcome back, listeners. For this segment of the podcast, I've got a few questions for Rowan because there's just so much I and our listeners, I'm sure, want to know about Costa Rica. So first question, can you let our viewers know a bit more about the specific part of the country that you're in?
Sure. So I'm in a smaller city in Alajuela province to the west of San Jose, so it's sort of between San Jose and the Pacific coast. And it's really a beautiful part of the country, very hilly. It is the rainy season, so I've discovered very wet this time of year. It rains practically every day, but the sun rises early, get up early, get out into nature. Yeah, I'm really enjoying exploring the landscapes.
That sounds amazing. I would love to go. Is there anything that area is especially well known for?
I guess it's known to have the best climate in the world. That's their local
Hmm.
claim to fame. I guess with it being kind of a hilly area, you get a good breeze. So if we have our windows open, we don't even need to turn the air conditioning on. Even though it's a pretty
Hmm.
warm country, we get a good breeze and it's not too hot where we are.
Oh, you're lucky. It might actually be better than where we are right here. So what about you've been in Costa Rica for some time. So do you have like a overall impression of the country as a whole? Like what struck you so far?
The biodiversity, to be honest, has just blown me away. Even in our little property where our apartment is, you can be walking down to take the garbage out and you see some iguanas sunning on the street, butterflies, enjoying the milkweed everywhere, so many trees, and accordingly, so many birds. We have these toucans called aracari, which I just saw some yesterday, and we see them, every week flying around or sitting in the trees. The great Kiskadee is a beautiful yellow bird, the blue-capped motmot, this really vibrant blue bird. We've got plants, coconut trees, banana trees, plantains are growing nearby, mangoes. When we first arrived, we got a bunch of free mangoes off the trees. I mean, it's just so much, so unlike, where I come from, where if you don't have an orchard, it's very unlikely you're going to be getting free fruits off the trees.
Yeah, we can do apples around here, but that's pretty much it, really.
Yes. You gotta go to
Uh,
the store if you want delicious tropical fruits like mangoes or dragon fruits and the like.
mhm. I remember having dragon fruits just growing wild in the parking lot near my house in Japan,
Right.
in southern Okinawa. That was pretty cool. So, is there anything in particular that you think makes Costa Rica like stand out from its neighbors in that part of the world?
I would say just the overall safety. I mean, I loved Nicaragua when I lived in Nicaragua about a decade ago. Beautiful tropical nation as well, beautiful beaches, but there is more poverty there, I would say, and a little less stability in government. So there's a little extra feeling I find of safety, at least where I am in Costa Rica.
Mm,
Government seems to be well, have things in order. The other thing I would say is it's not as cheap. It's a bit more expensive
mm,
than its neighbor to the north. I mean, my apartment in Nicaragua was only about 150 US dollars a month, whereas here it's closer to
mm,
700. But it is a nicer
mm,
apartment. It has a pool. It's on a nice
mm.
property with a nice community nearby. So yeah, those are the two things I guess that would stand out to me as a difference.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Costa Rica having kind of the best economy in that area. So that's probably why everything's a little more expensive. Yeah.
Probably.
So if anyone was going to be going over to Costa Rica, what advice would you give them if they're just fresh off the plane there?
I guess it would be the same advice I'd give about any new country you're going to live in for a
Mm,
while. It would be to sort of put yourself out there, try and learn some of the language,
mm,
so you can order food at restaurants or take taxis. What really helps with that, I mean, I do speak some Spanish, so that's helpful to me. But
mm,
for things I don't know how to say or I'm having trouble understanding, you can always pop out Google Translate on your phone and
mm,
start typing things to each other. But yeah, just putting yourself out there, join a sports league or conversation club or just some way you can meet other people, whether other foreigners or
mm,
locals. And the
mm,
other thing I would say is get WhatsApp. I did not know this.
mm,
The only reason I had WhatsApp before was because my sister, when she was in Vietnam, was using WhatsApp. So to talk to her, that's
mm,
how we would do it. But here, everybody uses WhatsApp. It's like
mm,
every business, pretty much. Your doctor, your lawyer, your dentist, restaurants, stores. It's on their sign out front. It's on their
mm,
website, their WhatsApp number. So it's a free and easy way to communicate, whether by text or verbally,
mm,
with people rather than having to use your what limited minutes, cell minutes, or
mm.
text messages you may have with your plan.
Yeah, I noticed it was pretty prevalent in Asia. Not so much here, but I didn't realize it had spread down to South America as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely everywhere you go in this
Mm.
country.
Oh, okay. Good advice. Well, how about the culture? So, is there some sort of amazing part of the culture that you've learned about since you arrived, or something maybe you didn't expect that sort of took you by surprise?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't expect it, but
Mm,
I'm not surprised, but proven right. Maybe that people are
mm,
just super nice and friendly. I mean, one of
mm,
the first hotels we stayed at when we were here, the host was just so friendly and always talking to us and getting to know us. And see, like, oh, if you want to
mm,
go to this tourist attraction, I know the owner. I can probably get you a good price. When we were
mm,
having trouble finding a car we wanted to get, he was really helpful with some advice on banking and people just in general. I met another banker at a bank, not even a bank that I use, but I had some
mm,
issue with my debit card. And he was just really friendly and really helpful. Yeah, I just found
mm,
people generally very positive and
mm.
Pura Vida, as the saying in Costa Rica goes.
Yeah, I actually have a friend from Costa Rica, and he definitely fits that bill. He's a super nice guy. So let's see. Tell us a little bit about the food. I mean, that's something that a lot of people are probably wondering about, especially like myself. I have no idea about Costa Rican cooking, so please tell me, like, is there like a local dish or a national dish, something that just really stood out that made you say, "Wow, this is amazing"?
Well, the one that I guess I get the most now because it's just such a good price for the amount of food
Mm,
you get is the casado, which is like a full
mm,
meal. Usually, you can get one for, depending on the restaurant, between 2 and 3,000 colones, so maybe like
mm,
three to $5.
Mm,
and it's full gallo pinto or rice dish, rice and beans usually, and a salad and some
mm,
vegetables and a meat. So whether it's depending on the one you get, it might be a fish fillet or a chicken fillet or a ham or a lamb chop or whatever,
mm.
and a drink. And it's kind of like getting a combo almost, but of healthier food than you get at a fast
Mm.
food burger joint kind of thing. So I'm a real big fan of the
Huh.
casados. I found a lot of the restaurant food is more
Mm,
expensive than I would have imagined.
mm,
Like if you're getting, I don't know, a burger and fries maybe, but for the typical Costa Rican fare, it's a good price for the amount of food you're getting, I would say.
mm. How about any desserts? Like I've never heard of anything from Costa Rican sweets.
There are definitely a lot of sweets. There's a bakery on practically every corner, it seems. With I don't know, I'm not a big sweets guy, but they have
Mm,
lots of different kinds of things. Cinnamon rolls and
mm,
um, pastries, croissants, and yeah,
mm.
I don't know. It's not a thing I buy really, but donuts. My kid
Uh,
likes the donuts, and
so it's kind of a fusion. They have like a lot of Spanish type cuisines as well as North American, perhaps.
yeah, it's quite a mix of all types, really. A lot of pizza
Mm,
places for sure. Some good,
mm.
some not so good.
Well,
Uh,
I'd be at home then.
yeah, the what was I gonna say? Oh, empanadas. Like it's not really a local Costa
Mm,
Rican thing necessarily, nor are pupusas and arepas, which I think are from
mm,
Venezuela. But yeah, it's very cosmopolitan that way, I guess, from a Latin
mm,
American standpoint. You get really great empanadas
mm.
from the local shops and really great pupusas and things like that.
Well, I know what an empanada is, but a papusa, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just like I don't even really know how to describe it. Cornmeal wrap around meat and potatoes and stuff like that, I think. I don't know.
Mm.
We might have to edit this part out. I'm not really an expert on pupusas, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, how about how have you been spending your time there? Like, what about your adventures in Costa Rica? What have you been doing for fun?
Well, mostly I've just been hanging out with my family and local people in the neighborhood, just chatting and swimming in the pool. We went to the beach one time.
Mm,
Probably the highlights have been we went to an animal rescue center,
mm,
which was amazing. It's not like a zoo. Their focus is on rehabilitating and releasing into the wild animals that were not able to be in the wild, whether it was due to injury or maybe human imprinting through the pet trade
mm,
or whatever reason that they weren't able to be in the wild. So most of them, they rehabilitate them and release them to the wild back to their
mm,
natural habitat. But the ones that are not able to go back to the wild, whether it's for health issues or behavioral issues or for whatever reason it wouldn't be safe for them, those are in their enclosures, and so you're able to view lots of different types of
mm,
birds and wild cats and
mm,
crocodiles or caimans and turtles. We saw a sloth. That was actually a really interesting
mm,
story. The sloth apparently wasn't in its enclosure. The tour guide told us this
mm,
sloth actually was released back to the wild, even though it had had an amputation. Sloth
mm,
don't get human imprinted, and apparently their life is pretty simple, just living in trees and eating the trees that they live in. So as
mm,
long as they can climb a tree, they should be fine. So they've never had a sloth that they weren't able to release back to the wild.
mm,
But as we got further along the tour, we found the sloth anyway. They released it from its enclosure. It's free to go wherever it wants, but it does tend to come back to their rescue center just because I guess it likes it there. It's safe for it. And they said,
mm.
especially when it's about to give birth. And so it was there with its new little baby
Aw.
at one of the trees. So that was quite amazing to see the sloth.
Mm. Wow. I would love to see one. I've never actually seen one in person before.
We also visited an amazing butterfly garden. And
Mm,
in Costa Rica, it is illegal to have a pet trade or catch
mm,
wild animals. So
mm,
this place is very separate from the wild. It's all enclosed. All the butterflies are bred internally
mm,
and they're sold the larvae and eggs and whatnot to other butterfly gardens around the world. But
mm,
it's quite an experience. You're just in there and surrounded, covered by beautiful butterflies of all types native to
mm,
Costa Rica and other countries of Latin America. you ever get a chance to see a blue morpho, quite an exquisite specimen.
Oh, wow. I would love to go. It sounds amazing. I think I heard you visited waterfall as well. Is that right?
That was one of the first things we did actually when we didn't really have transportation yet, and we were just looking for something close by to do. And we took a taxi to a waterfall we found online that is in this little river that creates a big pool you can swim in at the bottom of the waterfall. And that's one thing I love to do in Nicaragua as well. So it's kind of getting back to that, swimming in the waterfall. It was quite a lot of fun, but it is also potentially dangerous, especially in the rainy season. The current can get very strong, and apparently there have been some issues with children potentially drowning at that waterfall in the past. So it is really important if you're going to go waterfall swimming anywhere in the world, I'm sure, and certainly here in Costa Rica, to do your research, make sure you're a strong swimmer and the waterfall is not too strong for you or the other people who are swimming there. It's best, I've heard, to go in the dry season as opposed to the rainy season, because the rivers can get quite ferocious in the rainy season.
Yeah, I've actually done that in Kyushu, and they gave us the same advice. Yeah. All right. So that was all the questions that I'd had. If there's anything else that you want to throw in there that I might have missed.
I don't think so. I think that covered a lot of interesting stuff. I'm happy if anyone has any questions about it, shoot it to us at teachingabroadpod@oxfordseminars.com or on our social media, and we'd be happy to get back to you.
Okay. Well, then, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's great having you. And before we go, we do have a little job placement update for those job seekers who may be listening. So please take it away, Rowan.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder that the demand for teachers in China is really increasing every month as more and more schools are getting back into sponsoring visas for foreign teachers. They do offer some of the best salaries and additional benefits like free housing and at least partial airfare reimbursement. So if saving money is your focus, China is definitely one to consider. And on the topic of Costa Rica, our contacts with language schools in San Jose and Liberia are still hiring more teachers every month. And if teaching business English, whether virtually, remotely, or in person, is your target demographic, Costa Rica is definitely a good option to consider. Finally, Colombia is also on a hiring binge right now with numerous positions in a variety of schools available. Some are for immediate placement, and there will, of course, be more options becoming available for the spring as well.
Great. Okay. So thanks for tuning in to the Teaching Abroad pod. We'll be releasing new episodes every third Wednesday. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and also share it with your friends. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, etc. If you have any great ideas you'd like to hear us discuss in upcoming episodes, please leave them in the comments on YouTube, send them in the comments to Oxford Seminars on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or email us at teachingabroadpod, all one word, at oxfordseminars.com.